back to Crown Chats. I am so happy to welcome another royal guest for the month. She is the New York Times best-selling author of romance books with a touch of whimsy. She's had 4 of her books adapted into Hallmark Channel fan favorite films, including the upcoming Royalish, based upon her book Once Upon a Royal Summer, which debuts March 15th on Hallmark Channel. She also has a brand new book, Bluebonnet Season, which comes out April 29th, that you can pre-order now. Please give another royal welcome to our wonderful guest, author Teri Wilson.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on to Crown Chats. It wasn't appropriate if we didn't celebrate Royal Month without some extra royalty here, so thank you for being here.
Of course.
So let's start with your background. What got you into writing, and specifically, why the romance genre?
Well, I was an only child when I grew up. I was really into reading. Like I loved books. Books were my best friends because back then I was shy. I'm not so much anymore. But I spent a lot of time with books when I was a kid and just have always loved them. And so I think part of me always wanted to be an author. I didn't really start until later in adulthood. And my son, when he was in middle school, was the first one to tell me that I should try writing a book because I kept talking about books all the time and loved them. And so I started writing short stories, and most of them had animals. Like my goal someday was to write like an animal book, like Black Beauty or Old Yeller or something like that, because I'm a big animal lover. I don't think there's an animal in Royalish actually, but most of my books have, pets in them. So I entered a contest that was being held by the American Kennel Club, the purebred dog people. So they used to have a magazine called Family Dog, and once a year they would have their short fiction contest. And to enter, you just had to write a short story, and it had to feature a purebred dog in it. So that was like the first contest I ever entered. And the first three placements, first, second, and third, would have their story in the magazine, published in the magazine, and a cash prize, which in retrospect, it was a nice cash prize. Now that I've been in publishing a while, I can appreciate it. So I entered that contest, and a few months after I entered, I got a call from the editor. I wish I knew who she was because I would like to circle back to her now. This was like 10 years ago. And she called me to tell me that I had won third place in the contest. And so my story was going to be in the magazine. And she said, but I really wanted to talk to you. I couldn't wait to speak to you on the phone because I wanted to talk to you about 2 things. I said, okay. And she said, the first one is, I hate the title of your story. It's horrible. And she went on and on about it. It was like not what I was expecting. I was like, okay, I'm scared to ask what the second thing is. And then she said, the second thing is, I wanted to tell you that you are a romance writer. And I don't know if you realize that. She said, because I think you think you're writing animal fiction, but at your heart, you're a romance writer. Everyone's falling in love. The dogs are falling in love. The people are falling in love. The people are falling in love with the dogs. You are a romance writer. And I thought about what she said, after that call, and I realized she was right. I mean, I read a lot of romance. I've always loved rom-coms. And yeah, so the very next day I started writing my first romance, which never saw the light of day because it was terrible, but it did teach me how to write a book. I started it. I got through the middle of it. I finished it. So I learned a lot in that process. And then the one I wrote after that did get published. But that is how I found out I was a romance author. Someone had to tell me, and then it all clicked, after that.
Your books have been extremely successful, so much so that Hallmark Channel has adapted a number of them into their very successful, beloved fan favorite films. So when Hallmark acquires one of your books, are you involved in that process? Do you have a say in how the script is adapted or any input in casting? Do you get to be on set? Or is it something you find out after the fact and then just get to sit at home and enjoy it with the rest of us?
Well, it really kind of varies. I think it varies, and even for me, has varied from project to project. When an author sells their work, to a company to be adapted, it's really no longer our story. They can do whatever they want to with it. And I'm a big Hallmark viewer. I always have been a huge Hallmark girl, and I love especially the movies that have been adopted from books, especially books that I've read. A lot of times, if they're going to show a movie and I know it's been adapted from a book, I'll go read the book first. And it's been fun to see, how they change things and think about why they changed certain things. And I've seen them change almost everything in some stories. But I've been really lucky because mine have really stayed true to the original story. And we've had great screenwriters because each time I've watched one of my movies, I can tell, even if there's new scenes that I never wrote, sometimes it'll have dialogue taken from other parts of the book. And so I feel like we've had really thoughtful screenwriters who really wanted to honor the original source material, which I feel like is a huge blessing. I mean, I just really love that. But the first one was Unleashing Mr. Darcy. And my book was also called Unleashing Mr. Darcy. And I was so, like I said, I've always been a Hallmark girl. When my agent called to tell me, like, she had been trying to sell the book to Hallmark for a year and a half and never told me. Like, I had no idea. She said she didn't want to get my hopes up because it was a long shot. And I'm glad she didn't tell me because I would have been on pins and needles for, 18 months. But I was just so blown away when she called and told me, like, I couldn't believe it. Like, it just seemed unreal because, I mean, every author, whether they say it or not, we all secretly dream that we'll have a book turned into a movie. And Hallmark is such just a perfect fit for me and what I do. I was just so excited. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend this. I'm sure it was obnoxious, but I kind of injected myself into the process. I just wanted to be as involved as possible. And the first thing I did was beg to be on set. And, different producers work different ways. I think, the producer was a friend of my literary agent, so that helped. But she seemed surprised that I wanted to be there. I mean, I think that when people do film work every day, they don't realize, it's really special for someone who's never done it before. And so I know several producers now, and they all express that surprise. They're like, well, so-and-so wanted to be on set and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it's a big deal to us. So I did, I begged to be invited and I was. And so for my first 4 Hallmark movies, I actually have little cameos. And all 4 of those, I was on set. I have nothing whatsoever to do with casting. That was news to me. And sometimes I find out early in the process who the cast is, and sometimes I don't. Actually, for Royalish was different. I was not on set for Royalish because it was filmed in Ireland, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. That would have been a lot, more expensive and a bigger deal. So I was not on set, but because I wasn't on set, I didn't find out who the cast was until it was announced. Like, I found out when you guys did. And I'm thrilled with it, by the way. I think that they're going to do an amazing job. I mean, I'm a royal girl. I love royal stories. I've always wanted a royal Hallmark movie, so I'm extra excited about this one. And I just really love this book, is really near and dear to my heart. So for this particular one to be a film, I'm just really, I haven't been as excited since Unleashing Mr. Darcy, which I was also really excited about. And I just think William Moseley in particular is going to be amazing in the role as Prince Henry. I've seen him be royal in other shows, so I'm just really excited about that. So yeah, this one is more of a surprise. So I haven't seen, but I never see the movie until it comes out on TV. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know, Hallmark films their movies in like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they spend a lot of time on editing and all that jazz. And a lot of times the final movie isn't completely finished until just a few days before it airs. I mean, they're working on tweaking little things. They're adding music. They're doing, voiceovers and all that. So that's really standard that, we don't see the movie till it airs. But so I will be seeing it on the 15th here at home. I'm having a little viewing party, and I'm looking forward to it.
And your new book, Bluebonnet Season, comes out April 29th. Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect?
Okay. Well, I should have had a cover. The book is called Bluebonnet Season, and it is part of a series of books I've written for my publisher, Harlequin. The series is called Comfort Pause, and you can read the books in any order. You don't have to read them in order. And Bluebonnet Season is the 3rd. But that series features therapy dogs that work in healthcare settings or in schools, helping kids learn to read, that sort of thing. Because my dog Charm and I do that. My dog Charm is a therapy dog. I got her during the pandemic in 2020. I think everyone got a dog during the pandemic, but my first Cavalier, who was, the story Unleashing Mr. Darcy, involved her. A doggy actor played her in the movie. She passed away in 2020. And so then I got a new puppy afterwards, and I got Charm. And I was just really moved by that time, people in nursing homes and hospitals by themselves going through really bad health struggles. I just knew as soon as I got charmed that when she was older, I wanted to go through the training for her to be a therapy dog. So we could do that and provide, comfort for people and do that kind of volunteer work. And I love it. We visit a nursing home once a month, a retirement center, and then once a week we visit a local elementary school and read with kids. And so that's what Bluebonnet's about. It's about a reading education assistance dog, and it is a rom-com. The owner, a school librarian, is the one who owns the dog, and she brings her to school to read with kiddos. And then the guardian of one of the kids wants to buy the dog because it's making such a difference in his little niece's life. And she's like, you can't buy my dog. She's, a family member. So they butt heads at first in that scenario. But he ends up, he's like, well, fine, I'll just get another dog and turn her into a reading dog. So she helps him train the dog and they form a special relationship. And she, forms a relationship with the little girl. And it's really sweet. But that's what Bluebonnet season is about. It takes place in a small Texas town called Bluebonnet because I live in Texas and it's really fun. I hope people check it out.
And that brings us to our final segment, which I call a little crown to crown, which is simply a rapid fire response. I'm going to give you a topic and you're going to give me the first answer that comes to mind.
Okay.
So, favorite book growing up?
Anything Nancy Drew. Like I loved Nancy Drew. I just devoured those. So, and I also love Trixie Belden. I loved a good mystery. Someday I want to write one. I've never written a mystery, but those were my favorites.
If they made a Hallmark movie all about the life and career of Teri Wilson, who would play you?
Oh my gosh, that is no one's ever asked me that question. Let me see. Well, I mean, I know she looks nothing like me, but I would have to say Lacey Chabert just because she's probably my favorite Hallmark heroine. So that's who I would say. I would say Lacey. She'd have to get her hair highlighted, but maybe get some bangs, but then it would be perfect.
Favorite Kate Spade item that you own?
Oh, I have a lot of Kate Spade because I love whimsical things and I love novelty bags in particular. And so my favorite Kate Spade item is a purse that looks like a bottle of champagne and a bucket of ice. So like the bucket looks like it's like silver glitter and then it's got these acrylic ice cubes and then there's like just a bottle of champagne sticking out of it and then you open it like this, you like open it with the bottle and it like lifts the top of the champagne bucket and then the inside is your bag. So I take that to fancy things or award ceremonies, and I won a writing award a while back and I took it with me and my editor was like obsessed with that bag. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Dream vacation?
Well, right now, this is crazy. I kind of want to go to Antarctica, which is funny because I'm not like an outdoorsy type person. But I watched that Hallmark movie, Polar Opposites, about took place in Antarctica, and the heroine's dad studied penguins, and now I kind of want to go there. I'm sorry, I have my do not disturb on, but that is someone on my contact list breaking through. Yeah, so now I kind of want to go to Antarctica. But my favorite city in the world is London. I'll go there anytime.
Best advice to other writers?
Well, my first piece of advice would be to read a lot in the genre that you want to write, because I think that, until you've really read it and studied it and know like what the reader expectations are for a certain genre, you really need to have a good grip on all of that before you start. And also a lot of I take a lot of writing workshops. I'm kind of a workshop nerd. I love to go to conferences. I love to learn from other authors. But I think a lot of what I learned about writing, especially in the beginning, I kind of learned by osmosis. You know how the plot should progress if you've read a lot. So that would be my first piece of advice. And my second piece of advice, not that you asked me for two, would be to connect with other authors, because it's a very solitary job. But I'm lucky enough to have a lot of writer friends and we all support each other. We learn from each other. We can call each other up if we're struggling, so we can have a little impromptu brainstorming session. So those would be my two pieces of advice.
And lastly, a favorite charity or organization you want to give a shout out to that holds a place in your heart?
I would say Pause for Service, which is my local therapy dog organization. We have, oh gosh, we have over 100 dog teams that do all sorts of work here in San Antonio in multiple different places. And so I would give them a shout out. We do have fundraisers every year, and they go to help train new dogs. They help us get our therapy dog vests, our certification. The more support we have, the more teams we can certify because there is a big old training class you have to go through. So that's who I would say.
And that wraps us up. Thank you so much for joining us here on Crown Chats. I know everybody's so excited for Royalish, and of course, we'll be pre-ordering Bluebonnet season here soon. Before we go, would you please let everybody know where they can find and follow you to keep up with all things Teri Wilson and the exciting stories you have coming soon?
Awesome. Well, my website is teriwilson.net, and I'm going to spell it because there's a million ways to spell Teri. It's TeriWilson.net. And my main social media is my Instagram, and you can find me there at Teri Wilson Author, TeriWilsonAuthor.
And that wraps up another royal episode of Crown Chats. Thank you again for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more exciting guests coming very, very soon. And of course, follow me, Haley, at Crown the Halls on Instagram. And until next time, wear your crown. Your crown may tilt and never fall, but you are beautiful and you are strong.